1087.1. It's a particular passage of the Srimad Bhagavatam where we are getting some doubts regarding the proof of the words of the Vedas. Proof is also called pramana. We will get into that in a while. First we'll read the verse. It says, Shri Parikshito Vacha, Brahman Brahmani Anirdeshya, Nirguna Guna Vrittayaha, Katam Charanti Shrutayaha, Sakshat Sat Asataha Pare. Shri Parikshit said, O Brahmana, how can the Vedas directly describe the Supreme Absolute Truth, which cannot be described in words? The Vedas are limited to describing the qualities of material nature, but the Supreme is devoid of these qualities, being transcendental to all material manifestations and their causes. So, Parikshit Maharaj is here posing a doubt about the words of the Vedas being actually authoritative, but we will see how this is actually very nicely resolved by Shukadeva Goswami in the next verse. First we'll read from the purport. In this first verse of the 87th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj expresses doubt as to how the words of the Vedas can refer to the absolute truth by any other valid kinds of Shabda Vritti. He asks, Katam Sakshat Charanti, how can the Vedas directly describe Brahman by Rudha Mukhya Vritti, literal meaning based on convention? After all, the absolute is Anirdesha, inaccessible to designation. So Brahman is often described as Anirdesha. You cannot describe him because he's beyond sense perception. He's actually beyond everything. You cannot measure him, and so on and so forth. However, when it comes to Krishna, it is actually possible to talk about him, as we will see. So the purport goes on to say, and how can the Vedas even describe Brahman by Gona Vritti, metaphor based on similar qualities? So these are called different ways of describing. We'll talk about that. There are three main ways of deriving meaning from the Vedic texts. Yeah, so it's mentioned here also the Vedas are Guna Vrittaya, full of qualitative descriptions, but Brahman is Nirguna, without qualities. But of course another part of Brahman is to be Saguna. Yeah. So we'll see in the next purport, in the next text, 1087.2. Shri Shukavacha Buddhindriya Manaha Pranam Jananam Asrijat Prabhu Matrartham Cha Bhavartham Cha Atmane Akalpanaya Cha. Shukadeva Goswami said, the Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind and vital ear for the living of the living entities, so that they could indulge their desires for sense gratification, take repeated births to engage in fruitive activities, become elevated in future lives, and ultimately attain liberation. So, as said in the purport here, I'm just going a bit down in the purport. The question Maharaj Parikshit has submitted here in previous verse, namely how can the Vedas directly refer to absolute truth, has been answered as follows by Shukadeva Goswami. The Lord created intelligence and other elements for the sake of the conditioned living beings. A skeptic may object that this answer is irrelevant. It may seem that he doesn't answer directly the question. But Shukadeva Goswami's answer is not actually irrelevant, as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains. Answers to subtle questions must often be praised indirectly. As Lord Krishna himself states in his instructions to Uddhava, Paroksha Vada Rishayaha Paroksha Mama Chapriyam. The Vedic seers and mantras deal in esoteric terms, and I am also pleased by such confidential descriptions. So in other words, Krishna, he is expressing that he likes to be talked about indirectly or in a confidential, subtle way. And that kind of way is called Vyanjana Vritti, and is the main way actually Krishna is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we will see. you can see here, I'll set this up. First, what is all this called? This is called, just give myself some space here. This is called hermeneutics. Yeah, so what does that nice word mean? Is a theory and methodology of interpretation, especially of sacred texts. So it's a Western word, so it started probably with the Greeks, since it comes from hermeneus, translator or interpreter. And so it was used, by biblical scholars, of course. So how to understand, how to, so then it is now used also for the Vedas. It has been used, not only now, but since a long time, because we have a group of texts called the Mimamsas, and they are also called Vedic hermeneutics. So we will look at that because they are used all the time by devotees, by us when we try to understand the books. We all have to actually use this, although we may not know we are using them. So it has been, popping up in Iskcon also now, our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The Shastric Advisory Council of the GBC, they, a few years ago, or was it just 1 year ago, they came with a hermeneutics course. So I'll copy-paste what that's all about. So it's about Adikara for interpreting our Shastras in Iskcon. How we're going to understand our books. Adikara means, what do you call this? Adikara means eligibility. What does eligibility mean? It means something like ability, I guess. You can say natural ability. Yeah. So what kind of nature we need to have to understand the Shastras in Iskcon? So they came up with, I'm sure these 6 qualities are also based on the Shastra, of course. So one is to have intellectual humility, service mood, to have fidelity to the text and tradition. What is the meaning of fidelity? Adherence, yeah. You can say trust. And then 3, discerning search for truth. Well, one wants to know the truth. And one wants to be truthful. So in other words, not to use these scriptures for one's own, egoistic or ahankara end, for the false ego's, enjoyment, but actually be objectively just want to have the truth. And then 4, honest and authentic conversation. That means Shastric discussion is definitely helpful for understanding the books. They're not understood in a vacuum at all. And then 5, openness to change and transformation. So the 6th one, benevolence and generosity. So these are 6 good starting points for us in order to interpret the Shastras. And needless to say, since we are in this spiritual movement, one needs to work under a spiritual authority, also called guru, in order to actually get blessings for doing scriptural study. So let's now look about, we can look what Srila Prabhupada said, just to give an idea, about interpretation. Should we really interpret it? Shouldn't we just accept as it is? Well, interpretation is actually going on all the time. Srila Prabhupada said, sometimes, often, don't interpret. What's the meaning of that? It means don't misinterpret, right? Because if you don't interpret anything at all, we have no clue what is being said, what is being done, etc. We are actually interpretation. That means using our intelligence, right? It's not dangerous. But we interpret with the help of the acharyas. Previous is acharyas, previous acharyas, and then our own guru, which then is diksha and siksha. Yeah. You can say previous acharyas in our line. Yeah. We have the 6 Goswamis. We have Jiva Goswami has given a lot of commentary. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. These Baladev Vidyabhushan, these are accepted by Srila Prabhupada. He's referring to them all the time. If you see in the Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he has dedicated his commentary to Baladev Vidyabhushan. And similarly, he's highlighting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur many times. In his Bhagavatam commentary, Prabhupada is often referring to Sridhar Swami. So in that way, we can interpret according, to their commentaries. Actually, if you have checked out Prabhupada's commentary to the Bhagavatam, he's actually often using the previous acharyas' commentaries in his own commentary, and thus he blessed his disciples to continue the commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. The last part of the 10th canto, 11th canto, and 12th canto was done by his disciples, who of course then relied a lot on the Acharya's commentaries, such as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhar Swami. So in that way, previous Acharyas we are definitely interpreting with the help of, and then our own gurus, Siksha and Diksha, in our line. Yeah. Okay. So what more? Yes. So we have a whole tradition of interpretation. So now you can say we're actually not going over to another camp here. We're talking about Mimamsa Shastras, but everybody is using these techniques from Mimamsa. We are called Uttara Mimamsa. That's the line of Vyasadeva. And Purva Mimamsa is the line of Jaimini. But we're using his interpretation techniques for understanding the Shastras. For example, the Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, he's using the Purva Mimamsa techniques for textual exegesis. We'll take a look at that here. Yes. So Mimamsa. So the root of the word ma, to examine, is the leading Vedic hermeneutic school. It's pretty much referred to by all the different schools, and its primary purpose, its original primary purpose was to understand Dharma. That's the book of the book of the Mimamsa Sutra. And it was primarily, about establishing the authority of Vedic rituals, established Vedas as ultimate authority, and Vedic rituals, and resolve doubts. Yeah. Etc. Yeah. So reading Mimamsa Sutra, you will have a great faith in the Vedic rituals. Yeah. So Mimamsa means exegesis, reflection, examination. We can take a look then what does exegesis mean. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Let's see, it means critical explanation or analysis, especially of a text. That is pretty similar to hermeneutics. Yeah. So the Vedic scholars, they are required to study logic, and Nyaya. So any Vedic scholar, if you want to be a scholar of the scriptures, of the Vedas, you better learn some logic. Yeah, and also Mimamsa is very helpful. Yeah, of course today we are reading Srila Prabhupada's purport and we understand in that way. But if we are to look in, deeper in other texts, which may not have the purports, well, Prabhupada, he wanted his disciples also to translate the text by the previous acharyas, and they have translated a lot of them already. And of course then they are definitely familiar then with Nyaya and Mimamsa in order to do that job. Yeah. So the exegetical format of the Mimamsas is called Adikarana, is in 5 steps. So it's called Vishaya, presenting the scriptural statement to be discussed. Then Samshaya means doubt. So regarding the statement's correct meaning. So that's used also then in the Vedanta Sutra. Usually then it's a doubt from another school of thought. So then Purva Paksha, presenting the opposite school's objection to the statement. So that's called what you can say an objection. Yeah. Purva Paksha means something like the other wing. And then Uttara Paksha, or the Siddhanta that the higher, that will be the refuting of that objection and giving the right meaning. Yeah, like that. And then you will end with Nirnaya arguments. The conclusion. Yeah. What is the actual conclusion? Yeah. So the Jaimini Mimamsa Sutra is the main work for Vedic interpretation. Yeah. So the Mimamsa established Vedas as highest pramana. So you can ask, why am I going through all these technical things? Well, because to understand hermeneutics of scriptural interpretation, it is a technical affair. So this session will be quite technical, but with these techniques we can actually understand a lot about what's actually being said in the scriptures. So I hope it will be helpful for us all. Once we have gotten through this, I hope we are a little bit more equipped to not doubt in our books. That's the main the main reason we have these Mimamsas or hermeneutic books. Establish Vedas as the highest pramana. Yeah. So pramana is also called source of knowledge. It's also called Vedic epistemology. Yeah. So epistemology, again, it's a little bit similar to hermeneutics. It means something like what can we call it? Knowledge. Knowledge about knowledge. Yeah, sounds funny. Knowledge about what is knowledge. Yeah, something like that. So pramana. So you have sources of knowledge. So you'll try and make this a little etymology of epistemology. Okay, thank you. You have to explain that for me, because that I didn't understand. Thomas Prabhu. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, let's see if we can understand this. You have different. You have a different means of getting knowledge. So the 3 most known is the pratyaksha, perception, sense perception. Anumana, inference, or you can call it logical inference. And Shabda is the word of Shastra. Yeah. scripture. Yeah, so sense perception means, what we... Okay, Thomas Eriksson. Etymology, the precise meaning, definition, lineage of a word. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. So I guess that will then be used in the Sanskrit. It's called nirukti. Yeah. So let's... etymology is in the Vedic language, I think it's called nirukti. As in the meaning of words. Yeah, a little bit different than epistemology, I would say. Yeah. Anyway, that is also very much used. You can put it up here. Yeah, because definitely Mimamsa is using that also. Yeah. So these these are main evidences. You can call it evidence, actually. Yeah. So sense perception, what we see, hear, etc., directly. Yeah. A logical inference, for example, mathematics. That's very much used. You can, for example, say you have a bridge, which can only take the weight of well, I don't know very much about the weight of cars, but say a car, maybe a car weighs 3 tons. I don't know. Very very heavy car is weighing 3 tons. So say the bridge can only take cars under 5 tons. So then you can understand by logic that a 3-ton car, he can go over the bridge without a problem. But if you have a huge truck weighing 10 tons, it will crush down the bridge. Yeah, so that's anumana, logical inference. And then Shabda, the word of Shastra, scripture, it means, for example, Vidhi, rules. For example, rules, a rule, for example, a rule like ahimsa, don't kill. Yeah. It's a non-violence. Now, actually, ahimsa means literally don't kill. Yeah, himsa means kill and aham means not. Yeah. So in that way, we don't do that because it's in the Shastra. That's the highest pramana. So this is the original court of law. It was all based on Shabda pramana. The words of the Shastra. And then you have how is this again? It mainly the Vedas, and then you have Puranas also. Then you have Dharma Shastras. Yeah. So this is is a higher, and also, and of course, the most important Shabda Pramana is the existence of God. Yeah. Yeah. At least for devotees, for Vaishnavas. So, for example, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then you have Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. It's in Sanskrit written like this. Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. This is hailed by Jiva Goswami as the Paribhasa Sutra. Yeah, Paribhasa Sutra, most important verse of Bhagavatam. Yeah. It means, Krishna is God Himself. Yeah. With a big H. Yeah. That's an example of Shadra Pramana. And then you have some others. You have Upamana comparison, Artapati postulation, Anupalabdhi non-perception. Can we have a comparison? Well, comparison. You can understand the comparison. That can be, you know, as an evidence. You can say this person is different from this person. Well, Artapati, at least I can explain it directly. So there you have the example of Deva Datta is, let's say, chubby, but Deva Datta is not eating, is not, you know, but nobody sees Devadatta eating. Yeah. So then, so how can we, you know, reconcile this statement? How to reconcile? So this means we are not, you know, superstitious. We don't believe in any superstitious things now, right? In this statement, we want to find a logical. It's actually a subdivision of logic, Artapati. But then we will say it means Devadatta is eating at night. Yeah. So then the Artapati is you understand? So that's the postulation. Of course, it may not be true, but you know, this is how it works. As you can say, postulation is a logical evidence. Yeah, just like we talked about logic before. If the bridge can only take maximum 5 tons, then logically, if you have a 10-ton truck going over, it will, you know, crush the bridge. So in the same way, you can say it's logical that Devadatta is eating some or other at the time when nobody sees him at night, if he's actually chubby. And then you have Anupalabdhi non-perception. That means, for example, that you don't see something. For example, you can understand a person is poor. A person is poor because you never see him, you know. Okay, so I actually have a good. A person is poor because you never see any food in his fridge. Yeah, right. You don't see, so you can draw the conclusion. This is also a subdivision of logic. Or another one, which I copy paste from another place, is the lack of gunpowder in the suspect's hand. So if the police is coming and somebody has shot somebody with a gun back in the old days, and they don't find it, and they find, you know, some suspect, but he doesn't have any gunpowder in it, you know, any trace of gunpowder on him, then they may think this is not the culprit. Yep. Yeah. So so there are a few more also. There's the 2 others also. Sambhava, possibility, and Aitya, tradition. So, for example, it's said that some of these Vaishnava holidays we are celebrating in Vrindavan, you may not actually find them, you know, directly in the scripture. Some of these, you know, you can say details, but it's a tradition. So in that way, we are following it. Sambhava, possibility, I don't remember what that was now, but anyway, the deeds are counted. So then you have 8 of these pramanas, and do we get room for this? In the system of Charvaka, he only accepts 1. Charvaka are the gross materialists, you can say, which are actually the forerunners of our school. Only accepts one. Yeah. And then the Vaisheshikas and the Buddhas, they accept two. The Buddhas are another. I don't know if that's the Buddhists. I think they're another group. Charvakas, they only accept pratyaksha, only what you see, only pure sense perception. Yeah. And Vaisheshikas, they accept Anumana and also pratyaksha. Yeah. So I just write them. So each I write down here, they will contain the previous one. So Vaisheshikas, they have two pramanas. Sankhya's, they accept pratyaksha, anumana, and shabda. Yeah, Sankhya philosophers. Yeah. And then let's see. I just take this away now, so we have them online, lined up. And then I think this is Nyayas. Nyayikas. Yeah. It's the logicians. Those who follow Nyaya. Of course, there are many different, but they also have Upamana added to that. And then you have Prabhakara Mimamsakas. They also accept Artapati postulation. And then the Bhatta Mimamsas. Oops. They also accept Anupalabdhi, non-perception. And then the Pauramikas. It's another school of Mimamsas, I guess. Yeah, so they also accept the two last ones. Yeah. So you can see there is a whole lot going on in the Vedic scriptural tradition for understanding the scriptures, or understanding anything, because actually the scriptures are meant for understanding reality, right? It's not a vacuum system. It's actually, from the very beginning, it's meant for understanding our reality. Yeah. So let's see if we can move on. I'll not get too much into the techniques here, because I just want to get to the main thing to understand Bhagavatam. Is to actually approaching our scriptures. Yeah. Approaching Bhagavatam. Yeah. Yeah. Or just approaching Bhagavatam. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So it's the main book of the Vaishnavas. Established by Lord Chaitanya and his disciples, headed by 6 Goswamis. Yeah. So we had a book there called the Saddarshan. Wait a minute. Sandarbha. So sorry. Sad Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. Establishes Bhagavatam. Let's say Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. as main Shabda. Do I write it correctly? Pramana. Yeah. Like that. So, but then this book also has to be understood in different ways. Let's see. We then can look at scripture itself, the Shastra. Yeah. Approaching Bhagavatam no, Shastra. Yeah. Yeah. So first, let's look at what is Shastra. Scripture. Shastra is derived from the root shash, meaning to teach. Yeah. And then you have, Jiva Goswami explains in the Krishna Sandarbhanu, one place there he explains, something about Shastra. That Shastra is educational. So here we have a quote from there. It says, Shastra is educational, education is instruction. Shastram hi shashanatmakam. Shashanam chupadesha. Upadesha, yeah, means instruction. There's two types. It's direct and by way of another meaning. In other words, indirect. So it's sakshat, direct, and artha antara dvaracha. So direct instruction is termed shruti. This being direct means it is independent. It does not require anything else to produce its effect. Thus it is said in the Artha Sangra, an independent statement is called shruti. So you have two different books. You have shruti and smriti. Yeah. Usually we write them in the Sanskrit. Shruti and smriti. Yeah. So two different books. So let's see. So shruti is they don't change. Okay. There's 4 Vedas. Yeah. We'll not get too much into detail of each of these things, but for those of you who know, we have 4 Vedas with its with its Upanishads and so on connected to that. They don't change. Smriti, they do change format. You can say form. They do change. You can say because they are, what do you call this? Recollected by memory. Smriti. Yeah, smriti means memory. Yeah. Maybe maybe they may be rewritten in updated language. Yep. But main teaching, the main is there. The main things are there. The same story, same philosophy, everything same, but recollected. Yeah. So then we have what is called then so Smriti then will be Puranas, Itihasas. That's it. That is search. Actually, there are only 2 itihasas, so you can just write them: Mahabharata and Ramayana. Yeah, yeah, like that. So you have 2 kinds of Shastra. So Shastra is then actually it's not only in conventional meaning. You can say Shastra is an authoritative book of teachings. You can have Shastra, even they call today probably in India Shastra, a very, very authoritative book about something, any kind of subject matter really, but authoritative. Yeah. So then you have in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have a nice utterance, which talks about the authority of the Shastra. Tarika kenet kara kutar kanumana Shastra virudharta kabuna haya pramana. To that it is said, why do you make an inference based on fallacious reasoning? A meaning that is contrary to Shastra is never authentic. In other words, a valid means of knowing the object of knowledge. So if we should understand the knowledge properly, we need to get it from Shastra. Yes. So how do we see, how do we recognize what is a Shastra? But probably they will have these 4. So it's like how to recognize Shastra. Yeah. So a few verses who tells a little bit about the symptoms. So we have the eligible person, the Adikara should be there, relationship, Sambandha, the topic, Vishaya, and the purpose, Prayojana. These 4 must be stated at the beginning of a Shastra. So if you take from Srimad Bhagavatam, then you have statement Dharma Prochita Kaitavatra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Shata. Actually, I'll copy paste that verse because we really need it now. So it doesn't say it has to be in the very, very first verse, but I mean it's the second verse, and a few verses later there are also more information. So I think this is 112. Yeah. So that's giving a little bit of scope for who is eligible to hear it. So that means the Adikari. We talked about Adikari before, remember? Adikari means the eligible person. Just like if you want to play basketball, you may need to be a little bit tall, or be good to you need to have some kind of good physique or whatever. There is an Adikari there. As we learned before, I think I mentioned that before, in order to understand hermeneutics, to study Shastra, one needs to have the good qualities of being humble, have a serious interest to understand the truth, to be very open, broad-minded also. These are Adikaris for interpreting scripture. So for having a Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam is said here, completely rejecting all religious activities which are material motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable about those devotees who are fully pure in heart. So here you have an Adikara for this book of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Yeah, does it make sense? Otherwise, please give me a comment. Let's see here. Yeah, so it had to be fully pure in heart. Of course, then we can immediately say we are not fully pure in heart. But if you want to be fully pure in heart, that's also counted. It's stated elsewhere that simply the desire to want to be good, that in itself is purifying the heart. And so it's called like nirmatsaranam. So it shouldn't be envious. Yeah. Non-envious. pure, non-envious. Yeah. And then you have the relationship Sambandha, the topic Vishaya, and the purpose Prayojana. So what is the purpose? Let's see. Oh, sorry, I copy-pasted it in the wrong place, I think. Yeah, I did. Okay, sorry, I'll come with them here. Sorry for that. Now I'll copy-paste them here. Here you'll see. Yeah. Yes, pure, non-envious. Here it is said, understandable by the devotees are fully pure in heart. Yeah. So, and then we have another verse from Bhagavatam then, which talks about the nature of Bhagavatam. What kind of book is it? Let's see. Maybe it's just if I just do like this. Yeah, it's the third verse. So one by one, we are getting to know Bhagavatam. So here we have Nigama Kalpataror Galitampalam Shukamugad Amrita Dravya Sumadam. So that's 1, 1, 3. So that's definitely in the beginning of the book. Wait, 1, 1, 2. So actually the very first verse it says that this book is for understanding Krishna. It says Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadasyatahan Vayaditaratas Chartesha Bhigya Svarat. It establishes Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva. Yeah, so here we have a purpose. Just wait a second, I'll give you the translation here. That. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Yes, so this is a book for enjoying the nectar. Yeah, it's a nectarian book. Yeah. Let's see. Have some reference to this. Just give me a second. Yeah. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, so he says, he has an utterance. Let's see if you can support this. So what kind of book is Bhagavatam? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Vakam Rasatmakam Kavyam. Yeah. That whose very essence is rasa is called kavya. Yeah, so kavya is poetry. Yeah. Yeah. Without rasa, a poetic work cannot be called a kavya. And so we have Jiva Goswami saying in the Tattva Sandarbha very nicely that Veda Puranam Kavyam Cha Prabhur Mitram Priyavacha Buddhayan Titihi Prabhus Trivid Bhagavatam Puna. The Vedas, Puranas, and poetic works, Kavya, instruct one like a master, friend, or beloved, respectively, but Srimad Bhagavatam instructs like all three. So Srimad Bhagavatam is then established here to be both a master, a friend, and beloved. So it's also, you know, having Vedic strength. It is it's called the Pancha Veda. It's the fifth Veda. It's also a Purana, instructing like a friend. Actually, we look at that the Vedas. How do they instruct? You've seen any Vedic, you know, statement. They're usually you know, imperative. They're just giving you rules. It's like a master, just giving, you know. For example, you have this famous statement from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam Vada Dharmanchara. Be truthful and follow Dharma. So that's not, you know, instructing, you know, very friendly or like a lover. It's just like a master. Of course, it's very good. So no logic, yeah, no logical reasoning over it. Just follow, yeah, without question. And then Puranas, they give reasonable explanations. Yeah, we have a lot of text in the Puranas, a lot of stories. There is ample opportunities for the sages to explain in detail why this, why that. Yeah, so that's like a friend, narrating stories with morals, explanations, like a well-wishing friend. Yeah. Now here comes the kavyas, the poetic works. So several of the works of the Goswamis are in that category, where they describe, you know, Krishna's pastimes. They consult like lover, you know, using sweet words, while, you know, indirectly sharing, you know, valuable instructions. Yeah. So confidentially. Does it make sense? And you know, in a aesthetically, what do you call it? Aesthetically pleasing way to attract attention. So you have the flowery words, yeah. Very, you know, nice aphorisms. No, what do you call them? Analogies, similes. In a picturesque way, you know, describing things. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is doing all this. It's very sweet, very, you know, some places very indirectly describing. We'll get to that now, actually. That in kavya, in poetry, in Vedic poetry, what can you call it? Let's just call it kavya. You have this thing called Vyanjana Vritti. What does it mean? Suggested meaning, yeah, is used a lot. Yeah. It's stated just plain, directly. It's called mukhya. vritti. Yeah. Just face value. It's kind of boring. Yeah. Not so appreciated. Yeah. Yeah. So we have then the 3 ways of expression in the Shastras. Yeah. Shabdavritti. So Bhagavatam, of course, are using all 3, as we already learned. Is giving just straightforward, reasonable explanations, using similes, and then also very confidentially. So Bhagavatam using all these 3. This we have learned from scripture. Is it by? I think it's by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Alikarna Kashtuba. Alikarna means ornaments. Yeah, so it's about there's a book about book with tools for poets. Yeah, let's just call it like that. It's probably much more of it. With literary tools. Yeah. So it's ornaments and so on. So to spice up the language, right? So words are divided into 3 categories: mukhya, literal, lakshana, figurative, indirect. So you can say literal, direct, and vyanjaka, suggestive. So let's see if we can have some examples of this. So we have then the later verse says Vritti too. Yes, the Shabda Vrittis are 3 ways of expression: Abhida, Lakshana, Vyanjana. Yeah. So Abhida Vritti means same as Mukhya. It's direct meaning. Lakshana, indirect meaning, and Vyanjana Vritti, suggested meaning. Yeah, let's now go on to see if we can explain. So the first one. 1, 2, and 3. So all of this we are doing now is hermeneutics, to try and appreciate and understand the scriptures headed by Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first one is Varchaka, literally what is said. It can be of 2 kinds, Ruddhi or Yoga. Yes, it said Yoga Rudir Bali Yasi. The conventional meaning of a word, Ruddhi, is stronger than the etymological meaning of that word. Can we give some examples of that? Let's hope we have some examples there. Yeah, for example, you have the word, it says here, for example, the word cow refers to a particular living entity that possesses a develop, and so on. And then you have it like other word, it's like, what was that again? Let's see if I can find it. Something like yeah. So you have another example I'll give. Yoga meaning. Example. It is panchaka. Yeah. So then they have because that's derived out of Pancha means cooking, yeah, and Ka means Ka indicates an agent, yeah. So Panchaka then means a cook, yep. So that's a clear example of etymological meaning. And we will not go too much into that, because I also don't know too much about all this. But we can go to the next one, Lakshana, indication. Here, figurative usage. So then we have a quote from the book about poetics, that Lakshana is a rhetorical function which causes the understanding of another meaning connected with the literal meaning when the literal meaning does not make sense. So here we have a very good example. And this is the school book example which everybody is using. Gangayam Gosha. So it literally means, the literal meaning is, in the Ganges there is a village. So for those of you who don't know, Ganges or Ganga is the holy river in India. So this would mean that the village is, drowning in the water, right? But of course that's not the meaning, because that doesn't make any sense. So then we understand this statement we cannot understand the statement Gangayam Gosha from Mukhya meaning. Mukhya Vritta is not working for this, so then we have to employ the Lakshana meaning and see if it makes sense. So then we can say it means on the bank of the Ganges there is a village. Yep. Does it make sense now? So it was not said directly in the Sanskrit. This is how, translators, or those who study Shastra, they have to use their brains by using these tools to understand what is actually meant by the utterances. Yeah, so in one sense this is not too difficult, but it becomes difficult now with the third one, the Vyanjana, confidential meaning, because here you need more, you actually need more knowledge. You need to be more connected yourself, spiritually connected. Let's see if we have some quote on that. Yeah, we actually had the quote before, where Krishna, he said that he likes to be talked about indirectly. So that will go under Vyanjana function. So that is example here from one of the commentaries of Bhagavatam. It says Dvi artai padai pi shunayech cha rahasya vastu. One should indicate a confidential matter with words that have a double meaning. So in other words, confidential things, not saying straightforward. So all Shastra is not just, rules, like we had here. Where did we say that? Yeah. The Vedas, imperative. You say Satyam Vada Dharmanchara. They're short and concise and instructive. And that's pretty much it. Of course, they also have some sections where they are, poetic like that, but mainly they are, in imperative voice. And you can have, nice, reasonable explanations. So, apart from the Puranas, you have books of literature called the Hitopadesha or Panchatantra. They talk about, animals doing different, activities. And the animals are doing wrong things or good things, and they get rewarded or punished in regard to that, to teach morals. So that would be, in the sense of Lakshana meaning. But here the kavyas, or you can say books which actually wants to teach love of God, they may also use nice, sweet words and talk very confidentially. Yeah. So in that way, Srimad Bhagavatam is doing a lot of that. Yeah, so we have a nice statement here. Let the various Puranas and Agamas chatter about the supposed supremacy of various devatas for the sake of deluding the world of moving and stationary beings to the end of the Kalpa. Yeah, so that's a very nice statement in the Padma Purana. That there's a lot of talk about the demigods there and the heavenly opulence, but actually they just serve to hide Sri Krishna. Those who are eager, they should go to the higher Puranas, to the Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Purana, and so on, which are the Puranas in Sattvaguna, and do a thorough examination. So it said here, when, however, the expressions of all the Agamas are brought into conjoint examination, then, in accord with their Siddhanta, one alone, Bhagavan Vishnu, is certain to be the Supreme. Yeah, so let's see, we have a statement here. See. Yeah, I was looking for a statement now, just give me a little while. What is the subject of all the Vedas, of Vedanta Sutra, and so on? It's stated very nicely by Baladevi Jabhushana in Iskcon Vinabhasya. He says, the subject Vishaya is the irreproachable Supreme Person, Purushottama, constituted of eternal being, consciousness and bliss, and possessed of endless pure qualities and endless inconceivable potency. The aim Prayojana is direct perception, sakshatkara of him, preceded by the disintegration of all false. Yeah. So here was the quote I wanted to find. Let's see, because Siddhanta. What is Siddhanta? I wanted to explain that. Shastriyartha Nishchayaha Siddhanta. Determination of the meaning of Shastra is Siddhanta. So in order to understand the Siddhanta, or you can say conclusion, meaning, highest meaning, we'll need to do scriptural study, and we have the tools mentioned to do that, called hermeneutics. We have a few more statements. These are hermeneutic statements in Acharyas. So for example here you have Viruddha Vakyayur Yatra Na Pramayanayam Tadishyate Yata Viruddhata Chasyat Tat Artha Kalpayate Tayo. So this is Rupa Goswami speaking. Where there is a contradiction between two statements in Shastra, they should not be considered devoid of authority or lacking in credibility. Rather, their meaning should be formulated as such that no contradictoriness between them occurs. Sometimes you meet contradictory statements in the books. So rather than doubting the whole book, you should actually talk with somebody who may know more than us to get a reconciliation. Yeah, reconciliation. We should seek reconciliation of opposing statements. So, anybody paid attention in the class? I was mentioning actually the technique of the reconciliation was given before here as one of the pramanas. Let's go all the way back in time. See where they have that. Partapati, yes, there we have it. Let's see, sorry, now I'll get too far here. tool that can be used. So one can use logic. One can use nyaya. Yeah. So one of logic, such as Arthapati postulation. Yeah. So, for example, two opposing statements. It was that that the person, he's chubby, he has a big fat body, you can say, like that. But nobody sees him eat ever. So that means that he's eating in the night. That's a postulation that probably that is the case. We can come with another postulation, but not doubting the situation, like that. So let's see. We have some. Yeah, there's one more thing. Yeah. I want to take out another example of this. Can't find it. Yeah, here we have something. We are supposed to get knowledge. Yeah. From the Shastra. Yep. And the knowledge is called, now this is the thing, it's called jnana. It's a question mark. Is it actually real knowledge which we are getting just by reading? Sometimes you talk about jnana, vijnana. Shushka jnana. That means dry knowledge. That's knowledge without realization. Not sakshadkara. It's not experienced. Yeah. However, the knowledge we are getting from Bhagavatam is all sakshadkara, is experienced. Yeah. So we may not understand the knowledge. We may understand, not understand the knowledge according to our own direct experience. That means spiritual, jnana. Yeah. It's a jnana. Jnana is a part of the soul. Yep. It's a property of the Atma. Yep. It's covered over by Maya, as we know. Yep. So studying Bhagavatam, doing seva, etc. helps. Uncovering, or you can say in another way, helps rid getting rid of the ignorance, avidya. You say Maya's avidya. Yeah. So in other words, just reading in itself, we may not actually understand. It is supposed to be self-illuminating. Bhagavatam study is supposed to bring us something called self-illuminating knowledge from the Atman itself. Yeah, so that's called Svayam Prakash. Yeah, because the Atman is the knower itself. Atma is the knower. Yutayava. That's the Vedanta Sutra. Wait. Vedanta Sutra 3.3.19, if I didn't take wrong. Yep. So a characteristic of jnana is Artha Prakashaka. To give illumination of an what can you say? To cast light. To understand an object. Yeah. Let's just say like that. Illuminate our understanding. Yeah. Let's just call it like this. And then so sometimes in the Bhagavatam there may be some stories which may be it may not be to take literally every single thing, okay? All of Shastra may not be to be taken always literary. You know, in Mukhya value. So you have an example. So this is from Bhagavatam 12.3.14. Kata imas te katita mayiyasam vitaya lokeshu yasha parayusham vijnana vairagya vivakshaya vibhuvakcho vibhuti natu paramartyam. O king, I have narrated you these stories of glorious kings who achieved great fame in this world and then met their demise, in order to impart to you knowledge of the insubstantiality of sense enjoyment, and thereby to evoke in you a spirit of detachment from the same. These stories are merely a display of eloquence and have no bearing on the absolute truth. So, in other words, there were some stories which may have been used to make a point. Yep. It may be used a literary device. Literary device. Yep. Sometimes literary devices are used. They're called Alikarna. Yeah. So one of them is the Ati Shayokti Alankara. It's a hyperbole. Yep. Yep. Of course, it said if you think what is said about the holy name is exaggeration, that's one of the offenses to the holy name. But there may be just some details which may be, exaggerated. Sometimes there are huge numbers, like millions of this, millions of that. We shouldn't, get our faith compromised by such statements. It's not the main thing. It may be that the Bhagavatam is then, going in a poetic way. It's getting into poetry mode. Yeah. The main thing is to understand, the glories of Krishna and the great opportunity as a human being to come closer to Krishna by chanting his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this statement here, in the above verse, Varchu Vibhuti, as was in the above Sanskrit, it means not everything is to be taken literary, like that. Yeah. So then you may want to look at hermeneutics. Yeah, so in that way also, Jaimini Sutra also gives the tools here. 3.14. It says you have a 5. No, sorry, 6. Yeah, 6, is it 6? Yeah, ways to look at the meaning in the scripture. Shruti means direct meaning, Linga means suggested meaning, Vaka means interpretation through taking the phrases as a whole, Prakriya or Prakarana means intentionally taking a word out of context, Sthana means interpretation according to a philosophical stance, and Samakya means etymology. So I think one of our viewers he chipped in that etymology means the precise meaning, definition, lineage of a word. So that was one of the Mukhya Vritti called yoga. So in that way one can look at different ways to understand these things. And then we have, so that verse actually means the following. Let's see. When direct statement, Shruti, inferential mark or word meaning, Linga, sentence or syntactical connection, Vakya, context or interdependence, Prakarana, position or order of words, Sthana, and name, Samakya, are present simultaneously, each member is progressively weaker in interpretive force because of increasing remoteness from the meaning. It's quite technical. And then you have another one from Mimamsa Sutra. Let's see. So these are just hermeneutic tools for us to understand things. Let's see. Go down here. Yeah. So you have, for example, when somebody is very criticized in the books, Nahi ninda nindayatum prayurjyate kim tari ninditad itarat prashamsitum. So this is one of the comments. This is Sabara Bhasa, is one of the main commentaries on the Mimamsa Sutra. And it says, that the criticism, Ninda, is not employed to criticize, then what is it employed for? To praise something other than that which is criticized. So this is actually a very important point. If we see somebody get criticized in the scriptures, it doesn't mean that we now should be trigger happy to join in criticizing whatever. Or okay, Thomas Prabhu is saying plus the study of said discipline. Yeah. Okay, so for example, sometimes in Shastra you have heavy statements about women. However, this is often in the context of a story about the renunciate. And these sections in the books where renunciation is very much highlighted, then women is portrayed as being bad, you can say. But other places in the Shastras, they are said to be very good. So this has to be understood in the context. In another way, one can say that everything is useful for spiritual life. However, there are certain emphases according to different places in the Shastra, different objects, what you can say, persons are criticized. So that's how I read it, criticized. Yeah. Yeah, like that. So let's see, we had another one also here. It's also from the Nyaya Shastra. It's one of the Nyayas or logics. It says Nahi Ninda Nyaya. Nahi Ninda Nindyam Ninditum Pravartatepi tu Videyam Stotum. The criticism Ninda is not intended to criticize the object of criticism, but rather to praise the undertaking, in other words, the action that the sentence is stated to motivate one to perform. So here you have, for example, where Varagra, renunciation, yeah, there will be, certain heavy emphasis sometimes to inspire the sannyasi. Yep. You have, for example, some Upanishads. For example, Sannyasi Upanishad. They have some really heavy statements. Yeah. So anyway, it's just something to think about. There are some more things that could be said, but I guess we have went through a lot. So the main conclusion. Let's see if we can find the main conclusion. Go to the very end here. Yeah, I found a very nice verse here. Find a very nice verse here. So this is from the Bhagavatam Hermeneutics. Sarva prapanchatitanam tesham vaikunta vasinam tasya vaikunta lokasya tasya na tan nyayakasya cha tanhi mahatmya jatani prapanchatargatai kila drishtantai nupayujyante na shakyante chabashitum tatapi bhavato brahman prapanchantargatasya hi prapancha parivarantar drishti garbita chetasaha tadrishtanta kulinaiva tatsyad bodhitam sukham tateti ucheta yatkinchit tat aga kshamatam hari. The greatness of the residents of Vaikuntha beyond the entire fundamental world of Vaikuntha Loka and of its master. In other words, Vaikuntha Nata, who like Vaikuntha Loka and its residents is so also beyond the entire fundamental world, are certainly not fit and not able to be described with examples from within the phenomenal world. Still, O Brahmana, for you who are within the phenomenal world and the inner vision, in other words, awareness of whose mind is filled with the coverings of the phenomenal world, those greatnesses can be easily made known only through such examples, in other words, examples drawn from the phenomenal world. It may be said to be such. May Hari forgive the offender of whatever may be said as such. In other words, whatever may be said of those greatnesses by means of stating examples drawn from the phenomenal world, such as he, Bhagavan, is like an emperor. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.